The silent shape, the stars in the outer rim, always seemed quiet. Merchants passed through the lanes, smugglers hid in shadows, and Empire patrols kept order. For years, nothing strange had ever disturbed this sector. But tonight, something entered. The star map that no one could explain. It was first noticed by a small listening station orbiting a dying moon. The operators saw a shadow moving against the stars. A shape that did not reflect light the way normal ships did. At first, they thought it was a broken satellite, maybe an asteroid drifting across the void. But then the shadow changed direction, sharp and deliberate, as if it had a mind of its own. The station commander leaned forward and whispered, "What ship is that?" The scanners returned no answers, no transponder codes, no energy signatures, nothing. It was as if the object was invisible to their machines, yet still there to their eyes. They sent a report to the Empire fleet, labeling it an unknown class vessel. Hours later, the patrol arrived. Sleek destroyers painted with the Empire's crest. Their captain looked at the dark shape floating near the system's edge. He laughed over the comms. "This is nothing but a derelict, some forgotten wreck." The crew joined in his laughter. But deep inside their voices carried unease. The ship was unlike anything they had ever seen. It was black as the void, absorbing starlight instead of reflecting it. Its surface was smooth, seamless, as though carved from a single piece of shadow. No windows, no wings, no visible weapons. It drifted in silence, but its presence was heavy. Every alien on the patrol ships felt their hearts beat faster. The captain gave the order to scan again. Energy readings came back flat. Their most powerful sensors screamed confusion. "No readings," the crew reported. "It's not possible. Even rocks give us something." The captain's smile faded, replaced by a hard frown. Whispers spread quickly across the patrol fleet. Could it be a hidden weapon of the Empire's rivals? Or a cursed relic from a forgotten war? The younger crew members told stories of human ships, old tales about Earth building strange vessels before the Empire rose to power. But those were only myths. They told themselves humans were weak, humans were small. Still, the silence of the shape made their stories feel suddenly alive. The patrol approached carefully, guns armed, but the dark ship did not move, did not speak, did not even turn. One destroyer sent a shuttle closer. The pilot's voice shook as he reported, "We are 100 meters away. Still no details. It's like this ship eats the light." Then static swallowed his words. And the shuttle vanished from their screens. The fleet panicked, sending desperate calls across comms. The destroyer captain shouted orders, but his words cracked with fear. The shadow ship remained where it was, unmoving, silent, eternal. The crew wondered if the shuttle had been destroyed, absorbed or erased from existence. No explosion, no wreckage, no signal. Just gone. Back at the Empire's capital, the council gathered. Reports from the patrol filled their chambers with unease. The generals argued, "No ship can hide its signature like this," the scientist said. "It should not exist, yet it does." And among the whispers, one old admiral said the words that chilled them all. "What if it is human?" The council dismissed him with laughter. Humans were nothing, a minor race, a planet of survivors with no real fleets. The Empire had crushed them long ago, but still, the thought stayed in their minds. Could the forgotten humans have built something the Empire did not understand? The patrol fleet remained near the shadow, circling like predators afraid of their prey. Every passing hour, more destroyers joined, until dozens surrounded the unknown ship. But the shape never reacted, never moved, only floated like a silent witness. Yet deep inside, each captain felt that the ship was watching them, not with eyes, but with something far colder, far greater. The first officer on one destroyer whispered to his captain, "It's waiting." The captain barked back. Waiting for what? But no one could answer. The silence pressed against their ears, heavy and endless. That night, The Empire's networks carried only one message across the stars. Alert. Unknown vessel detected, classification impossible. Civilian worlds panicked. Soldiers sharpened their weapons. And spies searched old files. But no one could recognize the ship, and no one could stop staring into the dark. For the first time in 1,000 years, the Empire felt fear. A single silent shape had appeared at the edge of their rule, and already, without firing a single shot, it had changed everything. The first contact, the Empire was restless. News of the shadow ship spread like fire across colonies and outposts. In taverns, pilots whispered about it, as if speaking too loud might draw its attention. Merchants cursed the delay in trade routes. Soldiers polished their weapons, though they knew none would matter. The Empire could not allow panic to grow, so the High Command issued an order. A fleet of 50 warships was sent to investigate and destroy the intruder. They called it a show of power, a display that no outsider could ever challenge their empire. But beneath the confident words, every officer knew this was different. The fleet dropped out of hyperspace near the silent shape, 50 ships glowing with weapons, engines roaring like thunder. The black ship floated quietly at the edge of the system, unmoved by their arrival. Its surface swallowed light, making it look more like a hole in space than a vessel. Admiral Kalros, commander of the fleet, stood tall on his bridge. He was known as ruthless, never losing a battle in 20 years. He sneered at the sight. One ship against 50. This is no war. It's a joke. His officers nodded, though fear lingered in their eyes. The admiral opened a wide-band channel, his voice cold and mocking. Unknown vessel, identify yourself, or be destroyed. The black ship gave no reply. Silence filled the comms. Then, without warning, one of the Empire's cruisers vanished. No flash, no fire, no sound. Only empty space where it had once been. The bridge of the Admiral's flagship erupted in chaos. Crew shouted, contact lost. No debris, no signal. The Admiral's jaw tightened, his hands clenched behind his back. He refused to show fear. That was a trick, some cloaking weapon. But even he knew the truth. Nothing in their empire had ever erased a ship so completely. The Admiral ordered the fleet to surround the black shape. Dozens of ships shifted into a ring, weapons locked and ready. But the unknown vessel did not move, did not respond. It floated there, as if mocking them with its silence. One captain grew bold, his destroyer edging closer. His voice crackled across the channel. I will peel the hull open myself. He fired a barrage of plasma torpedoes, brilliant streaks of fire racing toward the silent shape. The torpedoes struck, but instead of exploding, the fire vanished. On contact, the missiles dissolved as though they never existed. The destroyer captain gasped. It ate the shots. Fear spread like poison through the fleet. One by one, captains questioned the orders. Some whispered that this was not a ship, but a god. Others said it was human, and that made it worse, because if it was human, then humanity had risen beyond all imagination. The Admiral silenced the fear with a roar. Enough. All ships, fire everything. A storm of weapons lit the void, beams, torpedoes, cannons. The darkness itself seemed to crackle with energy. But when the light faded, the black ship remained untouched. Not a scratch, not a single mark. The fleet went silent. Their weapons had meant nothing. The Admiral's pride collapsed into rage. He shouted, close the distance. Ram it if you must. But before his order could be carried out, something happened. The black ship moved. Not fast, not aggressive, only a slow, steady glide forward. Yet every alien heart froze, because the movement felt deliberate, like a predator choosing its prey. Then, at last, a voice came through the comms. It was not loud, but it cut through every channel. Calm, human, steady, leave or be erased. The bridge crews trembled. The Admiral spat in fury. A human voice. Lies, trickery. But deep inside, he knew it was no trick. The ship was real. The voice was real. And the warning was real. One officer whispered, "Admiral, we cannot fight this." Another added, "If this is only one ship, how many more do they have?" But the admiral could not accept defeat. His pride chained him to rage. He ordered the final charge. The fleet surged forward. 50 warships burning across the void, and the black ship answered. It released no missiles, no cannons, only a single pulse of white light. It spread across the void like a wave rolling through water. And when it faded, half the fleet was gone. No fire, no wreckage, just erased. The survivors screamed in terror, retreating at once. The admiral stood frozen, his hands trembling for the first time in decades. He watched the shadow ship turn slowly, its hull gleaming with unnatural darkness. And in that silence, he finally understood. This was no ordinary vessel. This was the end of the Empire's certainty. The human ship had made first contact, and it had done so by erasing a fleet in minutes. Empire in denial, the Empire's capital world glittered like a jewel in the void. Tall spires rose above the clouds. Banners of conquest stretched across the skies. For centuries, the Empire had ruled the galaxy without challenge. But now, a single black ship had broken their pride. In the Grand Council chamber, hundreds of alien leaders gathered. Generals, admirals, scientists, and ministers filled the great hall. The air was heavy with fear, though many hid it behind masks of arrogance. The Emperor himself sat upon the high throne, his golden armor shining beneath the lights. His voice boomed across the chamber. One ship cannot threaten an empire. But even as he spoke, reports arrived, outposts abandoned, fleets destroyed, trade routes silent. The survivors whispered. Of a human voice, a warning delivered without mercy. Every tale ended the same way. Fleets erased in moments, ships vanishing into nothing. An old admiral stepped forward, scars crossing his gray skin. He bowed and said, "I fought humans long ago. Before this empire grew, they were stubborn, clever, dangerous." He raised his eyes to the council. "If this is human work, then it is no accident. They have been waiting." The chamber erupted in outrage. Ministers shouted, "Impossible! Humans have no fleets. They are weak, scattered, divided." The emperor struck his staff upon the floor, silencing the noise. Yet even he could not shake the thought. Scientists presented data from the destroyed fleet. Scanners showed nothing, no trace of energy weapons. No physical impact. Ships erased, they said, as if removed from reality itself. Some whispered about forbidden technologies, dimensional weapons. Others said it was a myth, a trick, a ghost story made real. But the reports kept arriving. Colonies near the outer rim had gone dark. Refugees arrived at the capital. Speaking of a black ship moving silently through the stars, one child trembled as she told the story. It passed above us, and the sky turned to night. Our soldiers fired, then they were gone. The council split into factions. Some demanded surrender, others called for war. One minister, young and ambitious, sneered at the thought of fear. "We outnumber them. We control the stars. Even if they have one ship, we will crush them with millions." His words earned cheers from the proud, but doubt lingered. The old admiral shook his head. Millions of ships mean nothing if one vessel can erase them without firing a shot. He turned toward the emperor. "This is not war. This is not war. This is warning. And if we do not listen, it will be the end." The emperor glared, his pride burning brighter than his fear. "The empire does not kneel to phantoms," he declared. "We will answer strength with strength." Secretly, however, the emperor called upon his spies. They were ordered to search ancient archives, old human records, forgotten wars. For deep within the empire's memory lay whispers of Earth's secret projects. Weapons built in silence, Fleets hidden in oceans, technologies buried in shadows. Projects that had never been confirmed, but never denied. Meanwhile, across the galaxy, soldiers tried to calm the people, but fear spread faster than commands. Markets fell quiet, temples filled with prayers, and always the same question was whispered in the streets. If one ship can do this, how many more are out there? The Empire sent more fleets to hunt the intruder, but each time they returned with fewer ships, or worse, they never returned at all. And still, the black shape drifted closer to the heart of the Empire. Unstoppable, silent, patient, Admiral Kalros, the one who had faced it first, returned to the capital. His once proud face was pale. His hands shook as he spoke. I saw it with my own eyes. We fired everything. Nothing touched it. Nothing. He looked at the council, voice breaking. This is not a battle we can win. The Emperor rose in fury. Then you are a coward, he thundered. But when Kalros met his gaze, there was no shame. Only terror. Call me coward, but know this. The humans have returned. The chamber fell into silence. Every leader felt the weight of those words. For centuries, they had laughed at Earth, dismissing humans as weak, primitive, unworthy. Now, that laughter had died, and in its place grew something the Empire had not felt in generations. Fear. Reports came in that very hour. The black ship had entered the capital sector. No hyperspace jump, no warning. It was simply there, like a shadow slipping through the stars. The Emperor clenched his fist, rage burning in his eyes. Then let it come, he growled. Let this phantom see the power of an empire that has never fallen. But deep inside, behind the walls of pride and steel, a whisper spread through the council, a whisper no one dared to speak too loudly. What if this time the empire falls in minutes? Asterisk the human message. The capital sector was a fortress. Hundreds of worlds orbited within its control, protected by the largest fleets the empire had ever built. From the moment the black ship appeared, alarms screamed. Across every station, war drums echoed through the skies, and soldiers filled the streets. Admiral Kalros watched from his carrier as the shadow drifted silently near the system's outer ring. Its hull swallowed starlight, making it look like a hole torn in the universe. No engine trail, no heat, no signal, only the heavy silence of its presence. He whispered to himself, "It is here." The Emperor broadcast his voice across the system. "Defend the Empire with your lives. This intruder will not see another dawn." Millions of soldiers cheered. Fleets adjusted into formations. Pride filled the air, but under it was fear, a deep fear that no order could erase. As the fleets encircled the unknown vessel, the stars flickered. Then, for the first time, the ship spoke. A calm human voice rolled through every channel. It was steady, cold, and without emotion. "Leave this sector. Your empire ends today." The words carried through every ship, every station, every ear. Captains stared at their officers. Crews froze at their consoles. The language was clear, human, unmistakable. Whispers erupted. "It's them. It's the humans." The Emperor laughed when he heard it. A cruel, sharp laugh that filled the throne chamber. "One voice cannot destroy 1,000 worlds," he sneered. "Crush this ghost, erase it from the stars." Admiral Kalros clenched his jaw. He had seen what happened before. He knew the warning was real, but he obeyed his Emperor's command. 50,000 ships aimed their weapons at the shadow, and the order was given, "Fire." The void lit up like 1,000 suns, beams, torpedoes, and missiles rained upon the black hull. The energy tore across the sky, shaking planets with the force of their fury. Every soldier believed the intruder would be ash. But when the light faded, the ship remained untouched. Not a scratch, not a mark, only silence. A whisper ran through the fleets. They fired everything, and nothing worked. Then, without warning, the black ship answered. it did not fire. Weapons, it released light. A pulse of white brilliance spread outward. Not loud, not violent, only a calm wave rolling across the void. Ships caught in its path vanished instantly. Entire armadas gone without fire. Without sound, without trace, stations screamed as their monitors blinked into emptiness. Commanders fell silent as their fleets disappeared before their eyes. Half of the capital defense vanished in one single breath. The survivors trembled. Captains begging for orders. The Emperor shouted through comms, "Stand your ground, fight." But his voice cracked. His anger sounded more like fear. Even he could not deny what he saw. Admiral Calros dropped to one knee on the bridge. He whispered, "This is no battle. This is judgment." Around him, officers turned pale, unable to meet his eyes, for they all knew he was right. The human voice returned, calm as before. "You were warned. Resist again, and you will not remain." The words echoed in every mind. To many, it felt less like a threat and more like a promise. The Emperor raged within his golden palace. He struck the floor with his staff, shouting, "Cowards, fight! Fight or die with honor." But deep inside, he knew the truth. Honor meant nothing against a force that erased worlds in seconds. Across the galaxy, whispers spread faster than the fleets could move. Civilians heard the human message through hacked channels. Miners on distant asteroids repeated the words in fear. Leave or be erased. The Empire's pride was breaking, and its people knew it. Some colonies surrendered before the black ship even arrived. Governors raised white banners, whispering that survival was better than loyalty. Others fled into the void, praying the shadow would not follow. The Emperor refused to bend. He summoned every remaining fleet, every soldier, every weapon. "The Empire bows to no human," he declared. But the echo of his words felt hollow, because the galaxy had already heard a stronger voice. A human voice that spoke with silence and light. And with every moment that the black ship remained, the Empire's power crumbled. The collapse the capital world shook under the weight of fear. From its towers to its slums, every being felt the silence of the black ship above. Markets closed, temples overflowed, and soldiers stood frozen at their posts. The Empire had never faced a terror like this. Admiral Calros watched the void from his command deck. Around him, only fragments of fleets remained. Hundreds of ships gone in a single wave, erased without a sound. He whispered to his officers, "This is not war. This is the end." The Emperor's voice echoed across the system, filled with rage. "Stand and fight. The Empire does not kneel." But even his words cracked, carrying the weight of doubt. For the first time, the Emperor's command did not bring courage. It brought despair. Planets across the Empire began to surrender. Governors raised white banners before the black ship ever arrived. Entire colonies swore loyalty to Earth. Even without seeing a single human, they chose survival over pride, and whispers spread like fire. "The Empire cannot protect us." On the ground, people gathered in secret circles. They spoke the name of Earth as if it were both curse and salvation. Parents told children, "The humans have returned." Old soldiers who once mocked humanity now trembled in silence. The Empire's image of power shattered like glass. The black ship moved slowly through the sector. It did not chase. It did not destroy without reason. But everywhere it passed, fear broke the Empire's chains. Planets surrendered before a shot was fired. Rebellions rose where once there was loyalty. The Emperor raged within his throne room. He demanded his generals attack again and again. But each attempt ended the same. Fleets vanished, outposts silenced, worlds abandoned. The Empire's strength melted away in minutes. Admiral Calros returned to the palace, his face pale, his eyes hollow. He fell to one knee before the Emperor. "Sire, we cannot win. Every move we make, they are already ahead." The Emperor's hands shook, but his pride would not allow surrender. He spat, Then we die as rulers, not as slaves. Yet even as he spoke, reports arrived from across the galaxy. Entire sectors lost contact, rebellions declaring freedom. All because of one ship, one human voice. The Empire's enemies, long silent, now rose with new courage. They struck at weak borders, breaking chains the Empire had held for centuries. The collapse was not slow. It was instant, a storm tearing. Across the stars, one moment, the Empire ruled everything. The next, its fleets and colonies slipped through its fingers. In hidden rooms, ministers whispered of escape. They plotted their own survival, abandoning the throne. Even loyal guards muttered prayers. No one believed the Empire could last another week. A black ship finally reached the throne world. It hovered above the Emperor's palace like a shadow of death. Its dark hull reflected the burning cities below. No weapons fired, no words spoken, only presence. And that was enough. Crowds filled the streets, staring at the sky in silence. No one dared to move. No one dared to breathe. Children clutched their parents. Soldiers dropped their rifles. And in that moment, the Empire's people knew. The war was already over. The human voice returned, calm as before. Your empire is finished. Your rule is done. The words rang across the palace, across the streets, across the stars. Every ear heard them. Every heart broke. Even the Emperor could not deny it. He stood at the balcony of his palace, fists clenched for centuries. His dynasty had ruled without fear, but now his crown felt heavy, his throne felt hollow, and when he looked to the sky, he did not see hope. He saw the end of everything. The collapse of an empire had begun, not with fire, not with rebellion, not with invasion, but with one silent ship, one human voice, and in minutes, everything they had built for ages turned to dust. A final hour, the throne world burned beneath a black sky. Smoke rose from cities where rebels had risen. Flames cut across the horizon. The Emperor's banners, once symbols of eternal rule, now lay torn in the streets. But above it all, silent and patient, the black ship hovered. Inside the palace, the Emperor sat upon his golden throne. His crown felt heavy, his armor cold against his skin. Generals knelt before him, their voices trembling. Sire, our fleets are gone, our colonies. Surrender without a fight. Even our own citizens cry for mercy. The Emperor's rage boiled. We are the Empire. We cannot fall to one ship. He roared, but his words no longer carried the power they once held. They sounded desperate, hollow, even to himself. Admiral Calaros entered the hall. His face was pale, his voice broken. Sire, I beg you, speak with them. Surrender while you still can. The Emperor's eyes burned with fury. Never. I will not kneel to humans. At that moment, the black ship spoke again. Its voice filled the palace, the streets, and the skies. You called yourselves rulers of the stars, you enslaved, and conquered without mercy. But you forgot humanity. You forgot what we are. The Emperor rose, his hands shaking. Show yourself. He shouted, face me as a warrior, not as a shadow. But the black ship gave no face, no form, only voice. Your time is over, it said, calm and final. The palace shook. Lights flickered. Across the world, defense grids powered down. Missile silos locked. Shields collapsed. Fleets still in orbit fell silent. Every weapon the Empire had was turned off as if by a hand unseen. The people gasped. Even our systems belong to them, they whispered. Admiral Calaros dropped to his knees, his voice barely a whisper. They control everything. Around him, ministers wept. Guards dropped their rifles. And in that moment, hope in the Empire truly died. The Emperor staggered. His pride had been his crown, his power his shield. But now, stripped bare, he was only a man. He clenched his fists, but even his fury could not stop the truth. The Empire had lost. The human voice returned one last time. This is not conquest. This is warning. Humanity does not seek your thrones, your crowns, or your worlds. But if you threaten us again, there will be no empire left to bury. The streets fell silent. Crowds wept, soldiers collapsed, leaders lowered their heads. And for the first time in its long history, the empire had no answer. It was finished. The emperor stood alone on his balcony. He looked at the dark hall above. His voice broke as he whispered, "We thought you weak." And with those words, he fell to his knees. The last emperor of the greatest empire bowed not by choice, but by truth above the world. The black ship turned slowly. It did not fire. It did not kill. It only lingered for one final moment, a shadow against the stars, and then it vanished, slipping into the void without leaving a trace. But its message remained, a message that would echo for centuries. Humanity had returned, and with them came the end of arrogance. The final hour of the empire had passed. Asterisk. The empire erased, the black ship had vanished, but its shadow remained. For days the throne world was silent, its skies empty, its fleets destroyed. Every system that once belonged to the empire whispered the same truth. The empire was no more on. Distant colonies, governors declared independence. Flags of rebellion rose where imperial banners once flew. People who had lived in chains for generations now stood free. They no longer feared the emperor's wrath. They feared only the return of the human ship. In the great cities of the capital, silence filled the streets. The emperor did not speak to his people. He locked himself within the golden palace. His crown lay abandoned on the floor. Even his guards had deserted him. The mighty ruler of the galaxy had been reduced to a shadow of himself. Admiral Calros walked through the halls of the ruined palace. He saw ministers fleeing in secret, nobles discarding their titles. The empire's leaders no longer spoke of victory. They spoke only of survival. Calros whispered, "The empire is gone, but humanity remains." Across the galaxy, survivors told the story. They described the black ship as if it were a god. Some said it was forged from the void itself. Others claimed it was powered by the rage of Earth. No one knew how many ships existed, but none doubted that more could come. Fear became law. Entire star systems surrendered to humanity without seeing another human. They sent messages across the void. "Earth, we do not resist Earth. We will obey." But Earth never answered. The silence was worse than war. The emperor finally appeared before his people, but his voice was no longer strong. He admitted what none had dared say aloud. The empire has fallen. His words echoed through the streets like thunder, and with them 1,000 years of rule ended in a single breath. The black ship did not return. It did not need to. Its work was complete. One warning, one strike, and an empire that spanned galaxies lay in ruins. Civilians wondered why humanity had spared them, why the ship had erased fleets but left cities standing. Some believed it was mercy, others believed it was cruelty, but all agreed on one thing. The humans had chosen not to conquer, but to remind. The lesson was carved into history. Humanity was not weak, not broken, not forgotten. They had waited in silence. They had hidden their strength. And when the galaxy grew arrogant, they revealed it. Generations later, songs would still be sung about that night. Children would learn of the black ship that erased an empire in minutes. Priests would whisper that it was divine punishment. Scholars would argue that it was perfect strategy. But none would forget the fear of a single human voice saying, "Leave or be erased." Admiral Calros lived long enough to tell the tale to his grandchildren. He described the silence of the black ship, the hopelessness of their fleets, and he always ended his story with the same words. "They gave us a chance to live when they could have ended us all." The galaxy would never laugh at Earth again. The empire had been erased not by fire or conquest, but by one ship, one warning, one truth. That humanity, once mocked and forgotten, could end empires in minutes, and so the stars carried a new fear, a fear deeper than war, the fear of the day the black ships might return, not to erase an empire, but to erase them all. Asterisk,